You wouldn't build a house without a foundation, so why try to build a business without one? Grow your contracting business and grow your mind with Growth Mindset Monday.
All right. We are back. Welcome back to Mindset Monday. And I apologize. We literally are working on transitioning our new intro in. So that was our old one. Apologies. But there it is. You guys know the drill. If you're here live, go ahead and drop your name and business name, and we'll give you the good old shout out. Well, I'm really excited about today. Why? Probably not because it's 55 degrees in the middle of winter. Who knows? Not the fact that we haven't received any rain, which also sucks. But I'm really excited about the topic of conversation today, right? A lot of you guys are at this point where you're starting to hire, or you've already hired people, and you're struggling with your people. And I know this because I get conversations from you all the time, right? So let me give you a couple little shout outs here. We got Rachel with NSP Construction, and I think that's West Virginia. Welcome to the show. Total side note about West Virginia. Why do Alabama and West Virginia have like really cool songs and the rest of us don't? Just saying. We got Daniel with Noble Custom Glass and Mirror checking in from good old Buford, Georgia. I'll tell you, Daniel, we're redoing our bathroom right now. I could use a glass guy. I don't know if you deliver to Utah. We got Josh with Handy Volt LLC tuned in from the Valley of the Sun, the PHX. Welcome, my friend. And then somebody asked, is this live? Yes, my friend, this is live. Clean Cut Landscaping. We are live, my friend, and you are here with us. Appreciate it. Again, if you guys are here live, go ahead and drop your name and your business name. We'll give you a nice little shout out in the comments. So what is it that I really want to talk to you guys about today? Well, let me back things up a minute, okay? Most of the time, I say most of the time, okay? But most of the time, when you become a contractor because you're really good at doing the work, whether that's plumbing, electrical, handyman, building stuff, like you're just really good at it, right? In fact, when you go to Home Depot, you like are always buying some little tool or trinket or whatever. Or if you're like me on social media, you're constantly looking at all the videos of the cool new stuff that's coming out, right? There's always cool new stuff that's coming out. But when it comes to running a business, okay, the one of the biggest struggles that I see is this idea that nobody knows how to manage people. They don't know how to lead people. And so ultimately what ends up happening is they may have a really good person, but the person leaves because they don't know how to be managed. You talk down to them, you yell and scream at them, right? And it ends up being this like, I don't want to work for that guy. He's an a-hole. Pretty sure none of you guys have ever experienced that one, right? Or what ends up happening, and this is also very common, is you hire somebody to do a certain job so that you don't have to do the job, except you don't know how to manage them. So they do the job, but they do it wrong. And you have to come back and fix it. And it's not once, and it's not twice, and it's not 3 times. It is over and over and over again, right? You're paying the employee tax and not the one the government's taking from you. Got a couple more folks here. We'll give you a little shout out to Julie with Burton's Plumbing, the plumbers in pink. Love it. Welcome to the show, Julie. Jesse with Odd Job Heroes out of East Pennsylvania. Daniel says no, but I've connected with lots of people across the states for these reasons. I believe it. We've got Kenneth with Kingdom Electrical Services. Welcome to the show. James Gutierrez, good morning. Let's see. We've got Mike says most people get into this field and start making more money than they ever did and start messing up the money. Yes, 100%. You are right. This conversation is not necessarily about the money. We do have those conversations, but not today. Today, I want to talk about people. And I want to run a scenario by you. Okay, ready? Here we go. You're in the office. You're doing that thing that you love to do the most, paperwork, probably paying bills. Okay, and you get a phone call. And one of your employees says, hey, I effed up. I screwed this thing up. This wall fell, or the panel blew up, or, I punched a hole in the ceiling, or whatever the thing is, right? And now all of a sudden, this employee that you have is not making you money, but is costing you money. What is your initial reaction? Okay. Not to the employee that's making you money, but the employee that's costing you money. What is your initial reaction? And while I'm waiting for your comments, I'll give you a perfect example. We're doing this job up in Park City, right? Thank the good Lord. I think we're done this week. We've been on it since June of last year. We are doing framing, paint, and drywall. Okay. So we finished the framing, pass inspection. Everything's great. Then we send the drywall guys up right after they finished all their in-wall stuff or your plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all that good stuff. We send the drywall guys up, right? And on a commercial space, there's 2 layers of drywall for those of you that don't know, right? For fireproofing. So they do the first layer of drywall, passes inspection. Great. They haven't received the go-ahead to do layer 2. Okay. But someone did layer 2. And the supervisor calls us and said, what the hell's going on? Layer 2 is up and they did it incorrectly. And I was like, what? So we go up there. My wife does. We go up there and we realize that, yes, they put up layer 2. They used the wrong screws and the drywall is running the same direction as the previous layer. So layer 2 is running the same direction as layer 1. It has to run perpendicular, right? So we end up having to tear down the drywall, right? Turns into this whole adventure. I end up having to tear down the drywall. Okay. My wife calls me, true story. Okay. I'm wrapping up everything at the office. She calls me and she says, hey, we need to get 50 sheets of drywall up here ASAP. And she tells me what happened, right? We've already got drywaller number 2 on deck. He's headed up there with his guys, but he needs to get the drywall up there. They're focusing on starting to remove that second layer. We got to get up this new second layer before the end of the weekend because we got inspection, right? So I end up going to Home Depot. I rent a Home Depot Penske truck. I go to the drywall supplier, load up 50 sheets of 4x8x12 drywall, drive them up there. We unload them. And then I leave the truck there. We come back the next morning. We end up having to load all the broken and bad drywall in the back of the U-Haul. I have to drive it to the dump and then unload it. Okay. So what happened? We were super clear ahead of time. We're like, hey, here's your responsibilities. Here's how we expect you to do it. Here's your point of contact. Do this, don't do that. Like we were super clear, but shit still happens, right? Shit still happens. I'm going to get into it, but I'm going to get a couple of more shout outs here that we got. We got Gilly Gaines, I think. Good morning from Garage Craft. Welcome to the show. We've got James, TJW from earlier. We got Mike with Modern Building and Contracting out of, I don't know where you're out of, but welcome. We got Arturo with American Glass Designs. Got Nancy Hodges. Hi, y'all. Somebody asked, let's see. Clean Cut says, good. Glad you're on YouTube. I wasn't able to access from the app. Yeah, we're working on that, my friend. We definitely want that. So initial reactions, Daniel says, well, looks like I'm X amount of dollars invested in your Hard Knocks education. Time for my ROI. I really like that. Let's see. Nancy says, or Nancy with Hummingbird Handyman, Denver. Great topic. Go Utes. Oh, look at you. Somebody asked, hilarious. Are you Joe Rogan? No, he makes way more money than me and kicks a lot harder. Let's see. We got Heather Lofton, Plastic Pipe Fitting and Services. Welcome. And I think that's it. Cool. So back to this story, right? Your initial reaction. My initial reaction was, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to drive up there. I don't have to rent the truck and go buy the materials and go up there. This is costing me money now. That was my initial reaction. This is costing me money. And what did we do? We fired the drywaller, hired a new one. Because that drywaller was like, it wasn't my fault. some short, fat guy, he was bald. He told us that we could continue. I was like, regardless if somebody told you can continue, you did it wrong, right? Costing us money. So the initial reaction that most of us have when something goes wrong with an employee is to get pissed off at the employee. It's our natural reaction. And listen, I'm not here to judge, because guess who I was pissed off at? Guess who I was yelling at? Guess who I never wanted to see on another one of my job sites again? The drywaller, right? So it happens. But the question is, what is our response after it happens? By the way, you shouldn't be feeling bad that you get pissed off or frustrated, right? Because it's your baby. You're the owner. You are allowed to get pissed off and frustrated. But there is a way to do it, okay? The first thing that you need to understand, as much as you want to go off, tee off, whatever you want to call it, on your employee, don't do it. Don't do it, okay? Because it's probably going to screw up more things than it'll ever fix, okay? Now, some of you guys are familiar with Alex Hormozy. Love Alex Hormozy, been to a couple of his workshops. In fact, I've known him since 2018, way back before he blew up, right? One of the things that I learned from Alex Hormozy and his wife, Layla, was this idea of, regardless of whose fault it is your responsibility. Regardless of whose fault it is your responsibility, which tells us what? It tells us that ultimately, whether they succeed or fail as an employee, it's our responsibility. It might be their fault that they screw something up. It may be their fault that they don't want to learn and grow. Maybe their fault that they're late, but it's our responsibility. Something's broken inside of here, and we have to own it. You can't own the solution if you don't own the problem, okay? So what is it that we should do? Get pissed off, get frustrated, yell and scream. Don't do it in front of your employee. Do it with your spouse. Do it in your car. Go to the back room. Go take a lap around the office. Whatever it is, don't do it in front of your employee, okay? You have to get that anger and frustration out of your system. Why? Because long-term, with the right employees, okay? So let's preface it by saying that. Long-term, with the right employees, what do we want? What we want is for the thing to not happen again. Now, I get it. If it's something super serious like ours, it was $20,000. That's how big the mistake was. I'm not forgiving a $20,000 mistake. Like, you're gone, dude. But say it's a $500 or say it's a $2,000, right? Whatever that threshold is for you, okay, fine, mistake. Learning experience, as we talked about earlier, right? It could be your education or their education that you're paying for from the School of Hard Knocks, right? That, like Daniel said. But ultimately, what we're looking at is, I don't want to focus on the problem. What do I want to focus on? What do you think? We want to focus on the solution. The solution is what matters here. So I want you guys to think about this for a minute. Okay. If you're always problem focused, what are you always going to see? You're always going to see problems. Focus on the problems, you'll find the problems. If you focus on the solutions, it's not that the problems won't be there, because they will. Congratulations, you're a business owner. Clap, golf clap for all of you. You're a business owner. You will have problems, but your goal is to find solutions to the problems so that they don't happen again. So think about it this way. Okay. You get your anger out, your frustration out. By the way, punching bags are really cool too. You get that out. And then when you sit down with your employee, very few of them are going to fall on the sword. Okay. And by that, I mean, take responsibility for it. Right. The good ones do. So pay attention. Okay. But your response should be something around the lines of, it happens. I've done it. Joe did it, whatever. What are we going to do so that it doesn't happen again? What are we going to do so that it doesn't happen again? Because most employees are waiting for the wrath that's going to come raining down on top of them from you. They're waiting for it, right? And that's not really what we want. What we want out of the situation truly is for the thing not to happen again. So how is it that you're helping them find a solution to the problem versus focusing on the problem? We got a couple more folks here. Stacy with Great Solutions chime in late. Welcome, Stacy. And we got Joe M with Joe M Contracting out of North Dakota. Welcome to the show. Okay. First of all, here's what's going to happen. Your employee is going to be a little confused. They're going to stare at you because they fully expected the wrath of God to rain down on top of them. But that's not going to be you. right? You're focused on what? You're past it. You're focused on the solution, right? Because they might ask you like, why aren't you mad at me? Careful here, right? You want to respond, I am, right? But you can say like, yes, I am mad, right? But me being mad at you doesn't accomplish anything, doesn't fix anything, doesn't get us what we want. You're already mad at yourself. And by the way, these are the right employees, okay? They should be mad at themselves or frustrated or whatever the thing is, okay? When someone makes a mistake, though, your job as the leader is not to point out the mistake and tell them why it was wrong. Your job is to show your people where they are in terms of skill set and where they have to be to prevent those from happening again. For some of them, it's an education piece, right? They just don't know how to do the thing. For some of them, it might be a mindset, right? They need to step into that role of telling somebody what to do and what not to do so whatever doesn't happen. Who knows what it is? Your job is to help them figure out what it is and help them bridge that gap. Most people are good people. Most employees want to do a good job, but they're scared. They're scared because they know if they screw up, they're going to get fired. They're going to get demoted. They're going to get, docked pay. They're going to, whatever the thing is that they've experienced the rest of their adult life from every other boss that they've had. Okay. So here's the steps that I want you to think about. Acknowledge without emotion. Not, it happens, it's fine. It's not fine. A $10,000, a $20,000 mistake is not fine. Okay. It's not, how could you? Why would you? Because it's not helpful. Just acknowledge mistakes are part of business. That's the truth. Okay. Mistakes are part of business. Step 2. Okay. We really want to blame the employee, but the employees, if they're the right employee, is already punishing themselves, right? They're already stressed out. They're already not sleeping. They're already thinking, what am I going to do if he fires me? They're already thinking that. Okay. So adding to that wouldn't fix your money problem or your mistake problem. Okay. It's just going to make it more likely that what happens? They're going to do it again, except this time they're not going to tell you about it. And you don't want that. Okay. Let's go. Daniel says, I always tell them to not let it get them twice by letting it live in their heads afterwards, which takes away time they could be spending focusing on the solution. Great. It's awesome. Good job, Daniel. So step 3, again, focus forward. What are we going to do so it doesn't happen again? What's the plan for next time? How are we going to avoid this from happening? Okay. This is the learning part. And this is where you as a leader have to grow. This is the learning part. I had an employee once. She's been with me 6 years. When she first started, she sent out an email to 5,000 people and got my entire email account shut down. And I was pissed because at the time I was doing a lot on email, right? And I almost fell into this trap, right? And she showed up the call crying. And I was like, man, I feel bad. I don't want to yell at you, right? I didn't yell at her, but we did talk about it, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, to this day, because of that initial conversation that we had, she has no qualms asking me how to do it right the first time. Or, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think, right? She's changed her mindset to be more solutions oriented. Okay. Step 4. Okay. Document the learning. What do I mean by document the learning? I want you to think about it this way. It's not just what are we going to do next time, but now we have to look at this mistake and say, is it a system problem? Should there have been a check and balance? Should there have been a checklist? Is there an SOP? Does there need to be an SOP? What is the thing that we can do on our end to make sure that we do as much as we can to avoid this mistake in the future, right? If you've never gotten a call late at night to go help your employee because they ran out of gas on the side of the highway, well, guess what? You'll have an SOP for that, which we do. Beginning to shift, all vehicles, they're all gassed up. That's literally part of our checklist, right? Because we don't want to deal with that. Okay. So document the learning. Here's the biggest thing for you, right? And I want you to take, of anything that we talked about today, if there's anything that I want you to take home, this is the thing. Okay. Your job as the leader is not to punish mistakes. It's to point out the gap between where they are and where they need to be. Your job is not to punish mistakes. It's to point out the gap of where they are and where they need to be, because the right employees will do their damnness to bridge that gap. They'll work their hardest to bridge that gap. The wrong ones don't care. Okay. So give them the opportunity to bridge that gap. You want to build a strong culture. You want to build a strong team. You want people that are fiercely loyal to you. That's the way to do it. All right. I appreciate you guys being here on this beautiful Monday, but you know what time it is. It's time to get out there and be better leaders. It's time to grow your business the right way. It's not about you. It's about your people. Make it about them. Become a better leader. Lead from the front, and you're going to see where your business ends up 12 months from now. All right. You guys know what time it is. It's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1. Off you go.